want Stephen's legacy to be?
I'm April Huff. I work for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and I lost my husband about 4 years ago to leukemia. A couple weeks after our daughter was born, my husband went on his first big golf trip. He was so excited. He loved golf. And he came home from the golf trip and said, I wasn't feeling quite right. I got sick on the trip. I'm still not feeling great. So I told him, just go to bed, sleep it off. I thought it was food poisoning or something, that he picked up on the trip. Once I went back to work, I would come home and he was just so sick. And I was begging him, please let me take you to the ER. There's something seriously wrong. But I think he was scared and he didn't probably want to know the outcome of that either. So I knew that morning that his dad was picking him up to go to the ER, and I was just waiting on a call oh, they've come in, he has an infection or something like that. In the meantime, I had gotten a call from an urgent treatment center where he had gone at one point to get blood work finally and had come back. And I was teaching and I saw a voicemail, and it was the doctor at that clinic we're trying to get a hold of your husband. You're his emergency contact. We have his blood work. We need to talk to somebody immediately. And I called my father-in-law and I was I need to know right now what is going on. I know there's something serious going on. I need to know what it is. And he said, we've been trying to hold you off and get you through the day at work, but since you're asking me point blank, they think Stephen has leukemia. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in the floor. There's only one other teacher in there, and she got down on the floor with me, and I told her, they think my husband has cancer. And I said, all I remember saying was, but we have a baby. He was really, really sick, so because it had gone so long without that diagnosis, the disease was really just aggressive. And they said that he had the highest white count that they had ever seen walk into the ER, standing and not be on a stretcher. I remember that first day that he was diagnosed, they said, you're gonna need a blood transfusion. And Stephen was kind of a germaphobe, and I was oh, he's not gonna like that. He's not gonna wanna take blood from somebody else. So I was can he have my blood? That's how naive I was to the whole process, really, of blood types and the process that it takes from donation to actually giving the product to someone. So there was such a learning curve there of what I didn't know and what all entails a blood donation. There was no one close to me in my life that had cancer until Stephen. I mean, obviously you see movies or hear people's stories and cancer is a terrible thing. But to actually watch someone live out a diagnosis like that, I don't know if there's anything that can prepare you for it than just stepping in and seeing it. My in-laws and Stephen and I decided that we would continue our treatment in Houston at MD Anderson. He did a couple of rounds of a new treatment plan, and it was very successful, thankfully. He got into remission, meaning 5% or less of those cells were leukemic, and he was eligible at that point for a stem cell transplant. At that moment, he was gaining weight again, he was getting his appetite, his energy levels back. We really felt we're on the other side of this, we're on the upswing, we've beat this, everything. Yeah, it's gonna be hard, we've got a new normal, but he's gonna make it. And we started to prepare for his return back to Lexington. I walked in that door and he called me and he was are you home? And I was yes. And he said, I need you to sit down because they did my blood work today and they found out that I relapsed, meaning they found leukemia cells in his blood work that morning. Stephen's decline was just unimaginable. You watch someone that you love so much become just a shell of who they are. Now I work for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and I'm really passionate about that because I really want to be a part of something bigger than myself, bigger than our story. I want our story to be impactful and make a difference, but I also, hopefully with the efforts that we do here in Central Kentucky, we can create a different outcome for another family so that another family can keep their husband or their dad. There's so many people who are affected by cancer who really depend on blood products for survival. Not only do they need the chemo treatment and the researched based treatment or clinical trials, those types of things, but they also need blood products depending on what type of cancer and disease they're facing. So making sure that they have all those things to live is very important. I really had no idea the impact that blood donations and blood products, how impactful and significant they are to someone. It's almost like you don't really know the significance of a blood donation unless you're faced with it yourself or see someone that you love so much in need of it. Just to have the opportunity to do something bigger than yourself one day and save a life or maybe prolong someone's life is one of the greatest gifts that you can give as a human. One of the last conversations that Stephen and I had was about Claire, our daughter. She's 5 now. She was 17 months when Stephen passed away. I'm like wanting to play-by-play, right, of how we're going to raise our daughter. Like, at this age, do this, don't do that. I want like all the rules, right? I want to follow them all. And Stephen was he was always so simple, but so profound. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with Claire? How am I going to raise Claire? And the only thing he said was, teach her to be kind. So part of Stephen's legacy is raising a daughter who is kind, puts others above herself, loves Jesus, and just we're taking our story and we're using it for good, and we're remembering him in the small moments and talking about the memories, but also just being kind to others and creating a beautiful life that he would want us to have.